Hey Dungebags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for my review of this new EP from Puppet called Life Overseas. Puppet is the primary alias of the American DJ, producer, performer, and vocalist Brendan Baldwin. Baldwin was raised up in the great state of Vermont, though he spent a lot of his life overseas in Japan. Baldwin started producing a little over 6 years ago under the alias Yukai, where he did down-tempo, ambient, and progressive house music, though he would eventually move on to producing electro house in the duo Art Thieves. In December 2014, he debuted as Puppet on Monstercat with the song Scribble, a collaboration with my good friend The Eden Project. When Puppet debuted with Scribble, it was like this big culmination of everything he loved on the melodic side of things with Yukai and the production techniques he had learned with Art Thieves. Except there was something else there too, and that was the influence of pop-punk music. Back when Scribble dropped 3 years ago, before I was even doing reviews on my YouTube channel, I very clearly remembered saying something along the lines of, wow, like Angels and Airwaves vibes on this track. And strangely enough, since then, Puppet's journey as a musician has been him kind of progressively moving towards a punk rock sound. We saw him kind of dive into that sound full force for the first time on the track Vagabond from his Soft Spoken EP, arguably my favorite EP he's done to date still. Although that was also the last time we saw Puppet pursuing house music, he kind of gave it up with the EP Fear is Fleeting, which he released in late 2016, although I thought that EP was just about equally as fantastic. Once again, we saw Puppet kind of inching closer and closer to that pop-punk sound, and that probably came in its most raw form on the track Killing Giants with Richard Caddick and Murtaugh on this EP, arguably my favorite track he's done to date. So of course my next thought moving forward is, how is Puppet going to progress from here? How is he going to keep chasing those pop-punk roots? And that's where about 4 months ago, Puppet surprised me yet again with the release of his cover of Here Again by A Will Away. And I mean, we had gotten Baldwin's vocals in the past, though it was usually in more minimal ways, like doing background vocals on I'm Here, or gang vocals on Killing Giants, or even through a vocoder on the track Play Pretend. Here Again, on the other hand, was the first time we'd ever seen Baldwin do full lead vocals in their rawest and purest form. And I'll be honest, at first I really was not crazy about the result. And maybe that's because in the past I've really enjoyed the much more candy-sweet vocals, i.e. Aaron Richards, Richard Caddick, and Koo, that really complement his more melodic style. While on Here Again, Baldwin's vocals are very raw, very gritty, and very amateur. Though by the time Bigger Picture, the first single from this EP, released, I was probably pretty used to them. And that's backed up by the fact that I knew Puppet was taking more of a pop-punk direction with his music, and you know, some of the all-time most influential voices in pop-punk weren't necessarily critically good singers, i.e. Tom DeLonge of Blink-182. Needless to say, I absolutely loved and still love Bigger Picture. Puppet's vocal and guitar work contrasts Phoria's ultra-euphoric melodies and bass lines in a way that blends really well together. It's like every element of Puppet's music, from the vocals to the guitar to the bass line, sounds angrier, yet it is still one of Puppet's most euphoric tracks he's made to date. Just a couple weeks later, we got the follow-up single Dynamo, which I can comfortably say I didn't love as much as Bigger Picture, but I still like it quite a bit. It's got an intro that kind of reminds me a lot of Fear is Fleeting's intro Listen to the Storm, and that's kind of why I'm glad this track ended up as the first on the EP. This track has an even more punk sound to it than Bigger Picture, especially in terms of the lyrics. My favorite part of the track is probably that halftime drop that comes in at about 2 minutes. It's just absolutely incredible. And like I said, it's not like I dislike this track, it's probably just that its biggest crime is not being as refreshing as Bigger Picture was, considering it came out just a couple weeks after that track. Regardless, I was still really excited to see what Puppet was going to bring with his Life Overseas EP, but the result ended up being a little less impressive than expected. At least to me, it seems like with Life Overseas, Puppet has kind of hit a bit of a dead end. His entire career as Puppet so far has had him progressing toward that pop-punk sound, and now that he's finally hit it, he has a couple songs with that, and what else is he supposed to do? Make an entire EP with songs that sound just like Dynamo and Bigger Picture? No, of course not, because, I mean, one of Puppet's big strengths is his diversity as an artist, his ability to adapt his sound to different genres. So instead of searching for new ways to adapt his sound past just pop-punk and releasing songs like Bigger Picture and Dynamo as singles, Puppet has given us an EP that ends ends up taking a lot of influence from Fear is Fleeting. Like I said, there's the parallel between Dynamo and Listen to the Storm, especially with them both being the first track of the EP, but it definitely doesn't stop there. I've got nothing against Azuria Sky. In fact, one of the first albums I ever covered on this channel was an album that featured her on it, but her feature on Chin Up sounds so much like a top line, like so unbelievably like a top line. It doesn't feel like it belongs at all. I said something similar in regards to Aaron Richards on To Be Alive from the last EP, but I'll be real, like, Aaron Richards fits a lot better in that track than Azuria Sky does in this one. I think her really soft and tender vocals kind of transition pretty awkwardly into Puppet screaming, "Let's go!" right before the drop. Debatably my least favorite track on the EP, but I can say I wasn't really into First Time Fighting either. The song is a huge parallel to Play Pretend from the Fear is Fleeting EP, and that song was one of my favorites on the EP, especially given its really emotional set of lyrics and Puppet using that vocoder for the very first time. But at least to me, seeing Puppet do a similar thing with the vocoder once again kind of drains the emotion out of it. And this goes for any artist, not just Puppet. If you're going to use the vocoder, you have to do it sparingly. Don't do it 2 EPs in a row, especially when this EP is only going to be 4 tracks long. And I'd probably say that that's this EP's biggest flaw by far, is that it's only got 4 tracks rather than the 6 tracks that the last 2 EPs have had, and it doesn't really bring enough new content on the table to really keep me as interested as the last 2. And like I said, to me, Bigger Picture is absolutely fantastic in terms of being a single. I think it's absolutely top-notch, but when it's just 1 track on a fairly middle-of-the-road EP, it makes things difficult. And I do like Dynamo a lot too. It's just the second half of this EP is too much borrowed, not enough new. Since this EP did feel like such a dead end to me, I'm really curious to see what Puppet's going to do next with his music, and in the meantime, I'll hope for the best. For the Life Overseas EP, I am feeling a decent 5.5 out of 10. If you guys have listened to this, let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and as always, if you haven't, I have the Spotify link down in the description. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this little review. I'm Landon Remixes, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.